Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're tackling this concept that feels really, really relevant right now. It's about the power of, intentionally stepping back, almost disappearing from all the noise for a bit.
Hmm.
And we're not talking about like running away from problems. It's more of a strategic pause, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
deliberate move, something you do to actually, improve yourself, heal, maybe transform.
Right. And we've been looking at this really interesting YouTube transcript. It's from Speak English with Class.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And it explores this exact idea.
So the mission for this deep dive really is to unpack that. Like, how and why does creating that space, that quiet, actually lead to, well, significant personal growth?
Yeah, we'll be drawing insights straight from that conversation we looked at. It's got some great points.
Okay, cool. So let's dive right in. This idea of the power of walking away quietly,
Mm.
it really struck me how much pressure there is,
Yeah,
to be visible all the time, always explaining yourself.
constantly performing almost.
Yeah.
Like you have to live your whole life out loud.
Exactly. And what's interesting in the source material is how it flips that script.
It really does. It suggests that actually sometimes the strongest move is the quiet one. Just stepping away,
Yeah.
no big announcement, no justification needed.
Think about how much energy that saves.
Really?
Not constantly explaining.
Oh, absolutely. And there was that analogy in there um, about the seed.
No, yeah, the seed growing underground,
Yeah.
in the dark, in the silence.
Right. You don't see the progress on the surface, but that's where the fundamental growth is actually happening.
That really landed for me. It makes so much sense.
That's a great way to picture it. Real change, deep change, often needs that stillness. It germinates away from, meeting everyone else is okay.
So it's not passive then, walking away.
Not at all. The transcript frames it as a very active choice.
Yeah.
You're choosing to reclaim your peace, disconnect from the constant comparisons, the judgments, all that stuff that can just drain you.
And there's a healing part to it too, isn't there? It mentions stopping that need to, like, explain and defend yourself all the time.
Yes. That sounded incredibly liberating, didn't it? Like finally putting your own oxygen mask on first.
Totally.
When you ditch those external pressures, you actually make space to, well, find yourself again. Rebuild from who you really are, not who you think you should be. Your internal compass gets a chance to reset.
Okay, but let's be real. The idea of just vanishing, even for a bit, that brings up that big worry for a lot of us, right? What are people going to think?
Oh, for sure. The transcript tackles that directly, which is good.
Yeah, I appreciated that.
And the main point there is just so vital. You actually don't owe everybody an explanation for looking after yourself, for prioritizing your peace.
We're so conditioned to seek that validation, though, aren't we? It's almost automatic.
It really is. And, the transcript makes this quite sharp point. Sometimes the people you feel you have to explain yourself to, they might not even care that much.
Or worse.
Or, yeah, they might even have been benefiting somehow from your maybe confusion or your needing their approval.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to sit with.
Oof. Yeah. But important.
It's a powerful thought. And they bring up Steve Jobs, remember? After he got pushed out of Apple the first time.
Right. Instead of this huge public drama, he just went quiet, relatively speaking.
Exactly. And quietly built Pixar, built NXT,
Yeah.
things that ended up being, well, massive.
That period of focused work away from the spotlight, it let him create those amazing things. And then years later, he comes back to Apple and completely transforms it. It shows what can happen in that focused silence.
And what's fascinating is how silence itself gets reframed. It's not weakness or hiding. It can be a really strong boundary.
Like protecting your energy.
Precisely. Safeguarding your energy while you're, working on something new, or maybe just rebuilding yourself, conserving your resources for what actually matters.
Okay, so you've decided to step back, quiet the noise. The next bit is the rebuilding. And the transcript really pushes doing this in private. Why is that so key?
Well, think about the online world. It's constant, right? Notifications, comparisons. It just pulls at your focus, messes with your sense of self sometimes.
Definitely.
So stepping away from that, logging off, shutting down the pings, it creates that stillness you need for, like, real thinking, real concentration, building an internal sanctuary, you could say.
There was that story in the transcript, the person who deleted their social media apps for a month.
Yeah.
And suddenly they could hear their own thoughts again. That felt so real. Shows how much the external chatter can just drown us out.
It really does. And look at J.K. Rowling, writing Harry Potter, mostly before she became, J.K. Rowling. She was relatively invisible.
So big creations, big transformations, they often need that private space without the pressure of everyone watching.
Seems that way. Free from needing that instant like or comment. The transcript encourages using this time for things like journaling, studying, sleeping properly, just breathing without feeling you need to report back to anyone.
It's about nurturing the inside, not performing for the outside.
Exactly. Which leads nicely into the next idea.
Yeah.
That transformation isn't just about building new stuff. It's also about letting go of what doesn't fit anymore.
Ah, yes. The decluttering part. That felt important too.
It did. And acknowledging that letting go can actually feel a bit like, well, grief.
Yeah, like mourning old versions of yourself, even if they served you well at the time.
Precisely. Because holding on to those outdated identities or habits or beliefs, it can really block your evolution, you know?
Makes sense.
And the transcript stresses, again, this doesn't need a big announcement. The shedding can happen quietly, consistently. Let the results do the talking later.
I liked the connection to learning too. If your old study methods aren't working, don't just keep hammering away. Find something better. Discard what's not serving you.
It's all about that continuous improvement, isn't it? Not just what we learn, but how we grow.
Okay, so this quiet phase,
Yeah.
stepping back, the transcript admits it's not always comfortable, right?
No, definitely not. It acknowledges that this silence can feel loud.
Yeah.
And being alone with your thoughts, that can bring up some challenging stuff.
Right. And that's probably where you're tempted to just jump back into the noise, a distraction.
Exactly. But the encouragement is to actually lean into that discomfort. Don't run from it. See it as maybe a doorway.
A doorway to what?
Well, potentially to more clarity, to healing, to figuring out your next direction. They use the example of David Goggins.
Oh, right. His intense transformation done pretty much in isolation, facing his own demons without looking for applause.
Yeah, building that mental armor, as they called it, that deep internal work.
So in that solitude, you learn to motivate yourself, validate yourself.
That seems to be the idea. You become your own main source of encouragement, your own reliable validation, which is incredibly empowering when you think about it.
Because it's not built on what other people think, which can change any minute.
Exactly. It's not built on shifting sand. And they even related it to language learning, practicing speaking English by yourself. Feels awkward, maybe.
Definitely awkward at first.
But that's what builds the real fluency, the real confidence in the end. Not just thinking about it, but doing it, even when no one's listening.
So, okay, someone goes through this. They step back, do the work quietly, then they reappear. The transcript talks about arriving, not just returning. What's the difference there?
It's subtle, but important, I think. It implies you haven't just been away, you've changed, fundamentally. You're not just re-entering as the same person.
Yeah.
You arrive transformed because of that internal work.
Ah, okay. It's visible in your presence, maybe?
Something like that. It reinforces that whole don't tell them, show them thing. You focused on the process, not broadcasting every step. So the transformation, when it's revealed, is just undeniable.
It speaks for itself.
Right. And that person, the one who's done the quiet rebuilding, they don't need anyone's permission to feel powerful. It comes from inside.
There's that phrase, the internal glow up. I like that.
Me too. A kind of spiritual or intrinsic strength that's there, whether people notice it immediately or not. It's solid.
And tying it back to language again. Instead of saying, I'm working on my English, you just start speaking with more confidence. And people are surprised, maybe.
Exactly. The results speak louder than the announcements.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really seems to show that these intentional times of stepping back from the noise, they can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, a real catalyst for growth.
Yeah.
For real transformation.
And the key takeaway seems to be that this often happens in the quiet. It doesn't need a spotlight or applause. The real win is internal.
Absolutely. The real applause comes from within.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you think about all this, maybe consider what parts of your own life could use a bit of that quiet rebuilding. You know, what kind of arrival do you maybe envision for yourself down the line?
Yeah, it's a good question to ponder. Because true progress, as we've kind of explored here, often happens long before anyone else even starts to notice.